Hey family, it's Patsy White with another 5-minute ministry to motivate your month. We are heading toward the middle of August, and then in a couple of weeks it'll be September. What that means up here is that it'll start snowing. We get snow as early as September. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying the last bit of the sun and thought I would do a post about something that popped out at me as I was looking at this little vase full of clippings. One of the things that I have been pondering is how we can get impatient with God and God's timing. Because it seems like, a lot of times we may feel like we're ready to do things that we just are not. And God knows what we're ready to handle. Just like when you take a clipping, I've told a lot of stories about my plants, moving here almost 2 years ago now, that my plants took a beating. And particularly one of them was my rubber tree. Now what I did back when I was posting about the other plants is I went ahead and I just cut I trimmed the branches off of the rubber tree because they were really struggling, and I put them in a vase of water. Now of course, if you know anything about plants, when you put a limb like this in water, then it starts developing its own root system. And once the root system is mature enough, then you can put it in the soil and it takes on a life of its own. It's able to last on its own. But you cannot take the clipping and stick it directly in the ground and expect it to live. That's God's beautiful and perfect plan. It's also true for us, that spiritually, what we're not ready to handle, we will not be planted in it to do it, because God knows what we can handle. God knows what we're ready for. I wanted to show you this. These are the limbs, and hopefully you can see the root system that is starting to develop on each of these. I'm going to give it a little longer, and then I'm going to go ahead and put them in the ground in another pot. But this is very much like we are. When Psalm 1 talks about like a tree planted by the rivers of water, the key thing is that we have to have good roots to get planted solidly in the ground. Just as when Jesus was talking about the parable about a wise man building his house on a rock and not on sand, we also have to have a good root system so that when we get planted in the ground, not only can we draw up the nutrients to strengthen us, but we'll also have the strength in our limbs to bear fruit. Because, if you're not strong enough, then you won't be growing fruit will kill you. It'll knock you over because you don't have the strength to handle it. So I just want to encourage you today. It's a short post, but to be encouraged and trust God's timing. God knows what's good for us. God knows what we can handle. God knows what we're ready for. God knows what's dangerous for us. God knows what will injure us if we try it too soon. So surrender your impatience or your desire to get moving quicker than what God has planned for you, and listen for His voice, His nudge, His openings. Look for His opportunities that will give you some indication that it's time to move. So I thank you for listening, and have a beautiful day.